What's up, Bars Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Dropping Bars. And I have a good one for you today. I have a really good one for you today. I have with me on Dropping Bars Miss Kristy Charles, Krissy Commerce, as she's known in the social media space. I've been watching what she's been doing, the content she's been putting out, and she's been killing the social media game. As a social media guy myself, I know I had to invite her on because she's been dropping some serious bars on her social media surrounding finance and all thing investing in the Caribbean. And I just thought that, wow, this is somebody that I need to get on dropping bars. And thankfully, she agreed to come on and drop some bars with you. So, Krissy, welcome to Dropping Bars.
And hello, and I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. So let's jump right in and let's just tell the Bars Nation, who is Krissy and what do you do?
So as it relates to Krissy Commerce, my aim since 2020 has basically been to drive people, especially around my age group, my generation per se, in a road that leads to financial independence and basically being more intentional with one's money. So I've tried to focus a lot on more discussions, whether formal or informal, on budgeting money, investing money, having a plan for every dollar and not repeating the same generational cycles. And it's really understanding that there is more to life, your money's life, than a savings account, basically, and understanding the biggest risk is not taking any. So I also talk from like a relatable standpoint as someone who has a 9-to-5. I talk about entrepreneurship, 9-to-5s, having a skill, and altogether a better outlook on, our financial future.
Amazing. So tell me, I mean, you're young, so and I love what you're doing. Did you always want to be in the finance space? Like, what was the journey like to get to that place?
So, just to say, I have an entire degree in marketing. I had no direction of this space at all until the COVID year kind of hit me. So like many other things, I was just swinging it. The process for the financial space was pretty natural for me because at that time during COVID, I was learning more things. I was growing, developing, and I was excited to talk a lot more about money. So that's when I started like posting little money tips and other financial information as I went along. And if you went on my page at the time, you would see I would talk about things like spend less than you earn, things like that, pay off high interest debt, and have, like 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, things like that I would talk about. So I was someone basically like I was always interested in elevating. So I became severely passionate about money and stuff like that, stuff that I never particularly learned in school. So granted, my degree was in marketing. Personal finance is more or less for everyone as opposed to the degree of finance itself. So I kind of bridged the gap into like what I was learning and I tried to incorporate that on my social media page and kind of took it from there.
So this whole journey into finance started, or personal finance started during COVID, which is interesting. And so what were you doing prior to that? Before the whole finance guru status took over, what were you doing before that?
I was just a regular girl working in the legal industry, and at that time I was saving my money. So I was already good with money. So COVID kind of opened up my eyes to the different prospects of where I could put my money. Because at that time I was excited about just saving money, and that's all I really knew. I wasn't educated in other aspects of it. So what I did at that point, I started following a lot of social media pages related to finance. So if you're on Twitter, you would know that there's like money Twitter.
Yes.
If you're on Instagram, you would kind of realize that there's something called a FIRE community, financial independence, retire early. Like there are different places that you could find information on people. So when I started, I was at a pretty comfortable place with the savings that I had at the time. And then I found people at different levels to me. So there were people who were just starting paying off debt, things like that. Then you would see like 32-year-olds, that net worth of $1 million, things like that. So I kind of took it upon myself to kind of enter that space and kind of talk more about my journey and where I'm at in terms of net worth, things like that, and investing. So I took their information, I took their knowledge, and I kind of applied it to my own page, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, because I know that one of the things that we have a lot of problems with, and not just in the finance space, but just generally, when we're talking about education, is really finding the different bits of education and putting it together. It's so dispersed. So the fact that you're able to like just find it and put everything together, put it out on your page, it makes your page the one-stop shop for me wanting to learn about finance and not having to go and search for this person, that person, that person. So that's amazing. Now you have an ebook. It's called, let me just double check, Investing in the Caribbean, right? And that's one of the first things that actually caught my attention, because when you're thinking about investing, you really don't think about investing in the Caribbean, at least in my circles growing up, right? So that really caught my attention. So tell me, what are some of the opportunities that exist for investment in the Caribbean? And do you need to have like a particular amount of money to become an investor? Talk to me about that.
So let me just start by saying, when I started talking about money, I didn't particularly have an idea about the opportunities within the Caribbean. So when I was talking about money, it was from a more universal perspective. But during COVID, I was also in Grenada at the time. So I would meet people all the time who would ask me what's available for Grenadians within the region itself. And at the time I didn't know. So I started to do my own investigation and stuff, which led me to writing the ebook. So, so I would kind of say, I would say that things are basically evolving in light of social media as a start. And I always say that the Caribbean has a lot of untapped potential. So it's just a lack of knowledge surrounding investing our money on a whole that remains kind of foreign to us. So this generation has to be educated to a higher degree. And that's why I started talking about it related to Caribbean people and stuff, because I'm from there. So I wanted to kind of use that as a stepping stone in the process and the journey. So I would say that it also helps bring awareness to young people and what they can do. Otherwise, it would be considered boring or useless. So my ebook, it focuses specifically on the Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange, which is also known as the ECSC. And the ECSC basically allows you to invest your money into stocks, bonds, treasury bills, and so on. So whether you get money from your 9 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever it is, whether you have a business and you want to put some money into shares or so, or whether your grandmother gave you $500 and you have no idea what to use this $500, that's a perfect opportunity to see, okay, well, let me go see what companies I can put my money into and what companies I can be a part of. So as a general rule of thumb, it really depends on, your age, your risk tolerance and things like that. But because I am specifically, or at least I try to target my age range, which is, I'm 29 years old. So from at least 18, whatever, to 45, whatever. Unless I would like to tell people, I like to tell them 500 is a great place to start. Right. I live in New York, where the opportunities are more, it's endless in an investing sense. So you could invest as little as $1, $10 here. But in terms of the ECSC, it might be a little more different. So I would just say it's probably a better place to start at 100. If you go into Co-op Bank or so, they might tell you otherwise. That's why it's good to, which I'll discuss later. But that's why it's good to kind of have an idea of where you want to start, and they would be able to guide better on how much you can put in as a start.
Okay, that's really good. That's really good advice to know. So let's delve a little bit deeper into it then. So what are some of the practices that we need to adopt as a Caribbean people if we want to achieve financial freedom or financial independence?
First of all, I would say before finance anything, your health is most important. If you have no health, you can't do any of these things. So you can't focus on wealth if you have no health.
Correct.
So a lot of young people, I know we like the drinking, we like all the fun stuff, but a time will come where things sort of slow down. So before you do anything, just make sure you're healthy. And apart from that, I would say like plan carefully for your financial future. I tend to realize that we think because like we're in our 20s, then it's just the era just for straight partying. But one day you'll wake up and you're 30 and you realize that you have nothing to show for it. And you could have had stuff if you had a better plan. So it's not to say you just give up things that you enjoy, but it's more having boundaries with where you put your money as opposed to just wildly spending every paycheck. So planning carefully for your financial future is definitely key. If you could automate your savings from it every paycheck, then I would highly advise you to do so. Also, saving efficiently within the period of your lifetime, it would help you a great ton. In addition to that, looking for additional forms of doing business as opposed to just solely a 9 to 5. That's where most of wealth is built. It's not solely from a 9 to 5. Also investing your money as opposed to strictly saving. You can find your money will be running instead of walking, which is usually the case in a savings account. Paying off your debt on time. Just simple things. Paying attention to interest rate, because if you're investing, for example, and you have a bunch of debt and you're not paying off your debt on time, it kind of amounts to the same thing, because then you'll have to be paying interest rates on like credit cards and stuff like that. And also your emergency fund, have an emergency fund. So before you even start investing, for example, you should definitely have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved. So in the event of something happening to you, then you don't have to end up withdrawing some of your money. You already have that money there. So it's just these regular rule of thumbs when it comes to investing that you should have in place. And after a while, then you should start looking into different forms of cash flow. So sometimes people build another place to rent, for others to rent, things like that. That's a mindset that you should kind of have once you are trying to at least make your money reach to a different level, I would say.
Right. That's so amazing. And I imagine that somewhere along the line, like to get to that place, we need to have a mindset shift, because it's not like you wake up one day and say, "Oh, well, I'm gonna just do all these things," and like, especially when you're around, let's say growing up around people all your life, and all you're hearing is partying and spending, and let's just live it up. You have one life to live. Everybody talk about YOLO. You only live once, or whatever, right? And we just start thinking, no, what is that mindset that we need to adopt, do you think, as Caribbean people, if we want to build wealth?
I also agree with you, and in the sense that it heavily relies on your upbringing as well. So if you have parents, guardians, or whoever, they had a negative outlook on money, or if it's a case where you never had, you really have to kind of emancipate yourself from a thought where you believe like you would have like one day. Otherwise, you would be stuck in that loop where you just think, okay, let me just try to get by. The minute you put yourself in a box already where you believe, I'm just trying to get by, that's exactly what the outcome of your life will be. Mm-hmm. So I think you need to, as hard as it may seem, you might need to think highly of yourself up front. So the moment you decide that, okay, I want to get better with money, omit all the buts. The minute you keep on saying, but this is so hard, but life is hard. We all have our own things we're dealing with. And it's either you can learn from it, you could put it to the side and accept that and keep moving, or you can just stay in the same position. But if your aim is to create wealth for yourself, then you have to start thinking differently. So as a start, once you think highly of yourself, it would allow you to develop self-confidence. And once you have that self-confidence, you start to dig deeper into other areas where you could feel like you can possibly thrive. And it's also realizing that things are not linear. A lot of these successful people, they had 10 failures before that. But
true.
It's always, you have to be delusional to a different point where it becomes natural after a while. So, I mean, you're making moves to increase your income, and at the same time, you're intentionally spending less. You're taking more calculated risks. you're positive and you're realistic. And it's knowing that from the moment you start having these negative thoughts, it's going to affect what your next step would be. And building wealth again is never by accident. You don't just wake up one day and have the money there. Like, you need to have like a plan for your own future. And whether you try a couple of things and it doesn't work, you have to know like one day something, it go bust basically. So yeah, it's, you know, it will come through for you. And that's the mindset that you should have going through life. And then one day, maybe 10 years from now, that'll be it for you, you know.
Yeah, I really like you saying, you know, think highly of yourself. Because it to me, I've been in circles where, you know, people tend to put down themselves a lot, and sometimes it's a negative self-talk is what's really keeping you back, you know. And I was talking to a friend recently, and I was saying to them, they were talking about like, I guess, patting themselves on the back, you know, like just enjoying the little wins that they have. And they were saying to me, you know, I don't want to do that because people might think that I'm showing off and whatever. And I'm like, nah. Like, so I said to them, you need to celebrate your wins, celebrate your small wins. Like, if you're doing well and if you accomplishing something makes somebody else uncomfortable, then that person needs to look deep within themselves and figure out, okay, what's it about that person's success that's making me uncomfortable? Maybe I need to do something. So you need not be like, you know, in our society we say, oh, be humble, you need to be humble. No, you need to, while I do agree with being humble and so, but being humble doesn't mean that you need to downplay your success and downplay what you're doing and who you are just to make somebody else feel good about themselves and good about the fact that they're not doing anything with their life. I don't subscribe to that. So I'm really glad that you mentioned the whole idea of, you know, like just thinking highly of yourself. And I totally subscribe to that. That bit.
Like, you're talking my language in that sense, because people tend to definitely restrict themselves in places where I think they should be talking about it. And the minute you feel jealous or envious of somebody else's success, then you really should ask yourself, why do you really feel that way? In my circle, I encourage a little growth, you know?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, talk to me about it. What is getting you to this next level? And I'm happy to hear this. And this is what takes us to the next level. The minute you're like, you're shy, and it takes a while. It's not just like, you know, it doesn't come again. That's another thing that just doesn't come out one day. It's just like you having to, it takes one person to kind of set the tone. So if I, for example, say, listen, I want to hear your wins, tell me about it, then you feel comfortable, confident enough to tell me about it. And it really is like an overall self-development thing. So you would want to let others know and then let others kind of hop on, and then we all support each other, as opposed to like, you're doing good and then no one knows. Like,
exactly.
I'm not like that. So I totally understand.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So tell me, if you had a chance to speak to your 12-year-old self, what would you say to young Krissy?
Well, the thing is, at 12, I was always, so my mom bought me a book called Amazing Grace from when I was a little girl. So I always felt like I could do anything. I would say, you know, I would actually say the one thing I could do, one thing I would tell my 12-year-old self is to read more. But I always felt like I could do anything. When I was at convent, I was in every single extracurricular activity you could think of. Every single day I had something to do. So there was nothing I could really say that I wasn't a part of, more or less, or at least the interesting things I was always a part of. But I think the childhood me is showing up in a different way in my adulthood life.
Right.
Because at this point I could still, minus being a doctor, at this point I still feel like I can do a lot of things. And I think that, you know, like my childhood has allowed me to shape beautifully into what I am now, telling people things, educating people. So it's all interconnected. But I would definitely say read more, because that's what I'm doing. Spending a lot of my time right now doing. And the funny thing is that my mother would always tell me to read more as a younger girl. But I mean, it caught up to me and I'm doing it now. So she should be fine with that.
So I love that. And you know why I love that? Because one of my goals for 2023 is to read a book a month. So I for January, the book I read was Alchemy by Rory. And then my February book is called Flip the Switch. It's a book that literally just came out. I got I put it, pre-ordered it or whatever. It came in finally came in yesterday. So that's my February. So I am with you on that with where reading is concerned. Where reading is concerned. So you have your ebook. What do you offer any other like services in the finance is concerned, and like what kind of services do you offer, and how can people reach out to you?
So people can reach out to me by email, which is KrissyCommerce@gmail.com. My Instagram handle is KrissyCom93. My Facebook, Kristina Charles. Just as a disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor, so I do not offer investment advice. I, however, offer pick my brain sessions where you can just come talk to me, discuss your own issues. If it's issues of budgeting, just basic investing knowledge, and definitely serve as a guide for that, not financial advice. So if you want to get educated on money matters, things like that, then I'm your girl for it. And once you contact me, I would provide you with a link. And if you already have me like on Instagram or so, then you can just go into my bio and there's a link right there for you to set up an appointment with me, basically. But I'm relatively easy to reach, so yeah.
All right, great. Now, I want to throw you for a loop. I want to throw you for a loop. I want to ask you a question, very off the cuff. Let's see how you do.
Oh boy.
If you had $100 now, you had $100 and you had to spend it all in one day, what will you buy?
I would probably buy gym clothes, and that's because I'm currently gymming. So remember I said health is wealth? So one of my goals for 2023 was to go to the gym. So right now, after this call, I'll be going to the gym. And, I feel like I'm trying to look the part. So I need some more gym clothes. I feel like t-shirts and tights. It's not cutting it for me. So $100, best believe I'll be going to the Nike store and looking the parts. Hopefully I get the muscles to show for it.
I'm with you, and I mean, every morning I am in the gym as well at like 4:30. Nice. I am up, prepare myself, my wife and we head off to the gym. I'm always the one lucky. She's the one who like wakes up and wakes me up and everything, and I'm like, oh. Nice. Wow. But yeah, so I
like that question.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to throw you for, but I didn't, because you clearly know what you're. And then yeah. Well, what do I expect? What do I expect from a finance expert, right?
Exactly.
Right. Okay, great. So, Krissy, thank you so much for coming and dropping bars and dropping those awesome financial bars with us. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And sharing. I know I got some really good tips, and so because I mean, one of the things about dropping bars with me, like I tend to invite people on the show that I want to learn from. So, and I know that personal finance is one of the things that I know I just want to, me personally, I want to learn more about, and I just think that we need to have more conversations about that within our community, within our society. So I thought to myself, I really needed to invite you on. I mean, my first degree is in economics, and my first job is in the finance space. I was the branch officer in charge of the Grenville branch of Grenada Public Service Cooperative Credit Union, now Arise Credit Union in Grenada. So that's my start. But you could have a degree in finance and you can be working in finance, but personal finance and managing your own money and budgeting and these things is very different than actually working in the finance space. And that's something that I quickly learned. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I understand how to do loans and how to do all these things, but when it comes to managing my personal finance, is a whole different ballgame. So thank you so much for coming. Yes. So thank you
so much for having me as well.
It really was my pleasure. It really was my pleasure. I enjoyed this conversation, and I can't wait to share it with the Bars Nation. So, to everyone looking on, thank you again. This is Kimron Korean, your host on Dropping Bars, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you consume your podcasts, on YouTube. Subscribe wherever you consume this video. Don't forget to subscribe, share, leave a review, and let us know how we're doing. So thank you everyone for tuning in to another week of Dropping Bars. And again, Krissy Commerce, thank you so much for coming on Dropping Bars.
Thank you for having me.
You're a brighter star representing Dropping Bars with Kimron, Korean. It's all about life lesson in a youth. Bob Marley do it with them mouth, and do it with them foot. Never doubt yourself. Never lose the focus. Just some more positive content, Fully provision. Good meditation. Dropping bars and I build the motivation. Yo, Kimron, Korean. Every ghetto youth, them a pre-elevation. Stop carry feelings, focus on the arts and craft. Get rid of all malice and dirty art, youth. Work hard, believe in your dreams. These are the motivation tips, dog. Success strategies. Energy follow energies. Negative follow negativity. There is a free will to creativity. It's a journey within. Cause we dropping bars, dropping bars, dropping bars. We keep going hard, going hard, going hard. We keep dropping bars, dropping bars, dropping bars. Dropping bars, dropping bars. We keep going hard, going hard, going hard. Dropping bars, dropping bars.